Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ace Your Assessments podcast series, yet another assessment with Eleanor. Now, today we've got a special guest. We're going to talk about how to manage time and stress during law school. It is very important that you guys get to grips with this because we want you to be prepared for the difficult times, for the stress that you're going to encounter, anything overwhelming. This is the podcast for it. Obviously, we've got Brett Kerning coming to tell us about this. Brett,
Hey,
you are the Associate Head of Law for Education, and you are also a solicitor.
I
Now,
am.
you are teaching medical law, IPLS, and also are involved with SQE, dispute resolution modules. You are, well, I've got a very interesting thing about you that I want to share with the students, and this is that you are the captain. Okay, you guys, the captain of the Great British Dodgeball Team.
Yeah,
Brett, can
that's
you
true.
share can you share a little bit about this with the students?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy actually. Yeah, so I started like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago just casually, and then the sport really blew up and I got picked to play part of the national team, and so go across the world and play in like European Championships and World Championships. So I've been to Madison Square Garden, been to Canada, all across Europe, and North America. So it recently got Olympic recognition, so it's a potential Olympic sport now. So whether or not I'm still young enough to play when it's in the Olympics, I don't know. But yeah, pretty crazy fact.
That's brilliant. You lucky thing. You get to go to all these brilliant places. That's quite something. Now, Brett, we are here to talk about how to manage time and stress during law school. And I think to start us off, I'd like to ask, why do you think this is important for students, or why should it be important for students?
Yeah, I think it's one of those topics that's really important because it's going to directly impact students' academic performance, their mental health, their overall well-being during their time at university. And so law school is known to be notoriously demanding, and there are high expectations and significant pressures to succeed. So hopefully we can look at effective time management and stress relief strategies today, and that can help our students not become overwhelmed, not burn out, or lead to things like anxiety as well. And so I think it's important because it raises awareness about the challenges that law students face. And obviously, you and I have been in that situation before, and we know we would have loved a resource like this to help practical tools to navigate these difficulties. And so hopefully, we can help people here with a proactive approach to help you manage your workload and priorities and things like that as well, and help with things like time management. So if you can efficiently manage your time, stay on top of your studies and meet your deadlines, that will obviously in turn reduce stress. And so hopefully today we can tell you a little bit about some of the top tips that we have, having been through that process ourselves.
Mm. Oh, that's very good. I think, you guys tune in, really,
Yeah.
listen to this because it's going to be really valuable information. Now, Brett, earlier you mentioned the challenges. What are the biggest challenges for students, when they're trying to manage stress and time, what are the biggest challenges?
Yeah, I think it's university is this crazy experience where you've gone from perhaps living at home, or you might still live at home, but then you have this extra level of freedom that you've never had before, and this independence that you've never had to manage your own time. So you're going to have a workload to manage as well. You're going to have your own expectations, maybe family expectations, and maybe a pressure to perform. You want to be balancing things like obviously attending class, but maybe extracurricular activities, whether that's a part-time job, legal work experience, an internship, a sports club. And obviously, you're going to want to enjoy your personal life as well. And I fully recommend people immerse themselves in all of that. And so the challenges you face are you are juggling all these balls at once, or juggling all these plates, and you don't want to drop one. And obviously, we recognise the challenges at De Montfort, which is why we have systems in place to assist students to navigate those systems. But yeah, the challenge really is trying to balance all of those things and do it independently for the first time. But it's important to remember that you've got the support of our team, our staff, the DMU wellbeing team, and also the advantage of block teaching, which is not to give you those heavy deadlines that all sort of merge at once.
Mm. Well, can you share any effective time management strategies that a student can implement?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'd probably start off by saying to all students really, first of all, stress is really normal, and people go, "Oh, I'm stressed, I'm stressed." Like the first thing to do is embrace the fact that stress is normal, which is obviously part of a time management. It's linked. I'm going to say time management and stress together. And so I'm imagining that time management can affect your stress. And so for me, you're going to think, "Oh, I'm overwhelmed, I've got a lot going on," and what you need to do my viewpoint anyway, is create yourself a detailed schedule, set yourself specific goals, short term, medium term, long term, and then within that sort of goal setting, try to prioritize the tasks, break down projects into maybe more manageable steps and say, how can I achieve this task? It's a huge task. It's pass this module, but what does that involve? It involves 2 assessments. When are those assessments due? How can I break them down and what support can I use to do them? And for me, if you can break them into manageable steps and you can use tools like your calendars or your to-do lists or any great apps that are out there, and DMU has a lot of digital resources you can use, you can manage your schedule more accordingly. So if you break it down, I think if you take that big task into something smaller, that always makes it seem more manageable. I'll always have a to-do list. I'll always prioritize it by, and this was the same when I was in practice as a lawyer. What needs doing straight away? What has a court deadline? What maybe has an internal deadline which I can push back and manage that, manage your expectations with the people that you have deadlines with.
That's brilliant. And I do like how you stressed the stress bit because I was reading somewhere that if you imagine a snail with their little home,
Yeah.
when they are born, their home is as small as they are, so it doesn't
Mm,
need to be bigger. But unless you get the stress, and unless they got the stress and became uncomfortable within their shell wouldn't expand. So
yeah, that's a really
if you could just consider it as your own home, you know, your own study journey, your own whatever the case may be, unless you get the stress, which will
mm,
bring that, you know, sort of inject some sort of discomfort that makes you want more, makes you progress, you will always just stay the same shape, the same size. So, you know, talking about your brain, talking about your knowledge. So you want the stress. That's why it's very good that you said welcome the stress. It's good. It's normal. It's we all have it,
yeah, I
and
think
it's
that's
good that
right.
we have it because we grow. This is how. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, it's a biological response, and so it's not that you are. It doesn't mean you have anything wrong. Doesn't mean you're any different. We're all human beings. There's not one person in the world right now that isn't dealing with some form of stress. I think the importance is to think it's a biological response, and any biological response can be managed. And so try to avoid catastrophizing worst possible scenarios and try to think about stress can be a good thing as well. There's good stress and bad stress, you know, it can be a barrier, but actually, if you're super excited and you care about something, that's a form of stress. Like, I want to do well, I want to pass my law school exams, I want to be a lawyer, I want to make a better life for myself. That is all completely normal. And I think that's good stress to embrace, and it shows that you care. So I think it's important to remember it doesn't make you different to anyone else. It just means everybody deals with it in different ways.
Brilliant. What about your priorities?
My priorities. So, well, I have lots of priorities, but yeah, so priorities are important. I think it sort of links back to what I was saying before. Can you focus on the most important tasks and manage your time effectively? And so try to prioritize your assignments in order of what needs doing at different times and try to think about deadlines. The more you plan in advance, in my experience, there is less chance of feeling overwhelmed. And so, obviously, again, use your lecturers, use your resources, come and see me or Eleanor, it's absolutely fine. Develop a study plan, develop sort of what needs prioritizing. And it might be that you have priorities that shift. It might be that you're as part of a sports club and you have a match on a Wednesday and that you need to play that. And so you have to shift something to set a different priority for that week. But as long as you plan in advance, you won't feel overwhelmed, when the deadline approaches. Because I think most stress comes from leaving things, from going, oh, that deadline's 6 weeks away. And then it comes and it comes and it comes, and you've not done anything about it. So prioritize in advance, and that will really help.
That's brilliant. Um, Now, how do we balance academic demands with personal life?
So I think the first thing to note is that you should have a personal life and academic demands. That is absolutely fine. My experience is looking back, and I was at university, I graduated 10 years ago now, 2014, at the University of Leicester. And I can honestly say that was the most fun, best 3 years of my life by far. And it's easy to just, think about getting a degree or just think about your personal life and not getting a degree. The balance is what's important. It's going to be the best 3 years of your life. It's going to fly by. You will not believe how quickly university goes. And everybody I see at graduation says, I can't believe how fast it's gone. I can't believe I've been graduated 10 years. It still feels like yesterday. And so, first thing I want to say is do enjoy every aspect of university. Immerse yourself in the whole experience. That's really important. But in terms of balancing it, it's like anything in life. It requires you to set some boundaries, schedule your downtime, make time for activities that you like, whether that's baking or sewing or sports or whatever it might be, going to quiz nights. Take that time to relax, take that time to recharge, and that's really important as well. And if you get that balance, that's going to be a better key for a long-term success as well. And we encourage you to participate in extracurricular activities to maintain that healthy balance. And I think it's something you need to take with you into your work life as well. And it's really easy to get stuck in either camp, the camp of I'm just here to study or I'm just here to have fun. And either of those are actually as unhealthy as each other. So it's about that balance. What do you think on that?
No, no, I love the balance idea, and I think we're going to talk about a healthy work-life balance as well. But
Yes.
before we move on to that, can we talk about some common signs of stress? I think some people, even us, everyone in general, no matter how well you know yourself, sometimes you don't really see the signs, do you? And it takes a while until we get to grips with knowing ourselves and knowing at which point, in see it before it actually happens or before it escalates. How do we manage these signs to be aware of them before it actually goes higher
Yeah,
than it should be?
I think it sort of links back to the idea that it's a biological response because there will actually be some physical signs as well. So there will be internal feelings like feeling overwhelmed, which is completely normal, but you might find yourself being a bit more irritable, like easy to annoy. You might find you're having difficulty concentrating or you're having a change in sleep pattern. And so you could also see physical symptoms like headaches or issues like that. And if things are keeping you up in the night, if you're unable to relax or get away from them, I think they're the early signs that you need to take steps to start to manage some stress. Obviously, we've got our DMU wellbeing team, which obviously has a lot of resources to help, and you have your personal tutor and your lecturers and stuff to help. And it's important to sort of communicate to them early to say, look, I'm finding myself a little bit overwhelmed. And again, linking back to what we said earlier, it might be that that's normal. I would expect you to feel a bit overwhelmed starting at university. I remember going to halls for the first time, my parents leaving and just being like, wow, like I'm on my own now. But it's about like mixing that excitement, but recognizing the signs as well.
Mm, that's very good. And do you have any tips or any other tips that can help us here?
Um, so it's probably worth saying that not one size will fit all in terms of
Mm-hmm.
that. So for me personally, I like to play sport because that gets the endorphins going. So that's really good. The endorphins actually help the cortisol, which is what essentially stress is. Some people like to play games, video games, board games, anything to get the endorphins going. Having a good sleep schedule is massively important, and also having good eating habits helps the brain not feel tired. So, good sleep, good food, and playing or doing something that you really like, as well as thinking about things like mindfulness and meditation. So having taking time to meditate or do yoga or do mindfulness, and there's loads of great apps out there. And if you get that healthy diet, if you get enough
Mm.
sleep, and obviously if you seek that support, that's going to help, because once you have a tired brain, you're way, way more prone to be stressed in those situations. So I know obviously it's difficult at university, your sleep schedule can be everywhere, but if you can try to set that time to be, I want these 8 hours, I want 8 hours every night. I'm going to have a healthy breakfast. I'm going to have a healthy lunch. Maybe you're going to have an unhealthy dinner after a night out, sure. But try to get into that rhythm and that routine. And we have loads of fitness classes you can go to, or loads of societies you can join, and that will help to manage stress more effectively.
I like that you've highlighted what is available at DMU, and yeah, you guys get curious about them and see which one fits you, which one might sounds interesting, or just join for the sake of it. If you don't like it, you can always just leave it and
Yeah.
join a different one afterwards. Um, you mentioned schedules. Now, obviously, you can make schedules for anything, but what about making schedules for study so we don't get into the point of being too stressed or too worried about what our schedule when we're studying?
Yeah, I think probably my two tips for study schedules are they need to be realistic and they need to be flexible as well. So it's easy to say I'm going to study for 10 hours a day every single day and I'm going to learn the law back to front. But actually, if you're making something unattainable, then it's only setting yourself up to fail. So be realistic, be flexible in that, and start to assess what are your weekly commitments. So it might be you have a part-time job once a week. So that's some time that you can't. You might want to block out some time for mindfulness, meditation, for doing an extracurricular activity or a personal activity, seeing friends, going out, that's absolutely fine. And leave some flexibility to change. It might be that one day you can't do it and you can fill it in somewhere else, but have a general routine that you can get into, have a realistic one that you can do, and then review it regularly. Say, is this working for me? Is this successful? Or do I need to just change, pull on different levers just to adjust in different places? But realistic and flexible, I would say.
Brilliant. It's pretty much straightforward, I say. Um, do you have any advice for students that might feel overwhelmed with the course or the coursework?
Um,
Can be quite, it can be uh, quite a bit to begin with if you're starting as a
yeah,
first year, but even as a second or third year, sometimes it gets a little bit much, especially when the year starts.
yeah, 100%. I would say, first of all, take a step back, assess where it's sort of where the pinch points are, where the stress factors are coming, and massive, massive tip is just to reach out for support. That could be friends, classmates, academic advisors, could be us, it could be the student advice centre, it could be the wellbeing team, it could be someone, it could be friends, it could be family, but just make sure you talk to somebody, because there's a very, very good chance somebody else is going through it as well and might have some tips to say, look, I did this, or somebody like myself or you that's gone through it, and we can review maybe your plan and we can say, well, why don't we look at doing this, or why don't we look at doing that? So take a step back. Sometimes you can be so immersed in the problem you're not actually seeing it, and we could probably then help you break things into more manageable pieces, and give you a sort of a plan on how to sort of take those steps forward.
Good, good. Well, we promised the students that we're going to talk about work-life balance.
Ah, yes. Do you want me to go with you?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You go ahead.
So
We've got very different views, guys, of
you don't know what
work-life
mine is.
balance. Yeah, I
So
don't. Go ahead.
Um, yeah, so I come from obviously practice. So law firms have a very different work-life balance depending on the firm that you work at. But for me, it's always a healthy work-life balance is about setting boundaries. It's about saying, I'm working for a goal or working towards something, but I'm going to make time for things I enjoy. I'm going to stay physically active. I'm going to ensure I get enough rest within reason. You can't drop something in the middle of it and not be able to do it. But it's just about having some sort of red lines of saying, like, I am carving out time for myself as well. Like, I'll do my work. I'm not going to leave anyone high or dry. I'm going to make sure that everything gets finished. But on the trade of that, work, live to work, work to live, that debate. What do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, to be honest, I like what you said and I agree with it. I very much agree with it strongly. I think I have an issue with the actual phrasing of it,
Mm,
work-life balance, because it gives you that a false understanding that we should balance things. Like this is life is not about juggling, is it?
mm,
My day-to-day life is my life. There's no work and personal life. I don't I know they're separate, but this is my life. To
mm,
identify them, we say, I'm going to work, this is my personal, so that you separate them. But in a sense, our life is our day-to-day living, and how we live is however you're making it. So your choices, in terms of what you do as a job, what you do in your study, how you do it, the habits that you develop, will trickle in both sides, on both sides of the fence, if there were a fence between them, the personal and the work life. So I just call it life. So make
that's
sure
interesting.
that, yeah, so in that sense, I'm even saying, the other day I was at an event with I want to say 14-year-olds, 14 and 15-year-olds. They were doing a mock trial, and afterward, they got to network with all of the volunteers that showed up. And we came from all walks of life in the law sector. So they talked to barristers, they talked to me as a senior lecturer, they talked to academics from different fields that are in law. So it was just very, Silex,
Mm,
solicitors, and so forth. And they got to ask all sorts of questions. And I think at that stage in life, you're very confused about what you're going to do in life. And I felt like, you guys, you have to think, what do I want my life to be like? What do I want my day
mm.
to day to be like? Because that will, you know, again, I'm going to have to use work-life balance phrasing. Because what would you like your day to be like? So the little habits that you develop now, so developing just have something prepared for when I get stressed. This is why the tips and tricks and trial and error, try them for themselves and see what works, because you want to be this person, and to get there you need to do X, Y, and Z. So get there by developing your personal self as well, and then you don't have to worry about your work and your life, because you're going to love what you're doing. You've already put yourself in a position where you're ready to take on what you have set for yourself, this goal where you want to what you want to achieve and where you want to get to in life. And that will be you. It's like becoming a doctor. A doctor doesn't
Mm.
stop becoming being a doctor when they go home. It doesn't happen. So this is how I see this life work balance definition, which is not very correct. It just gives
So
us
the i
that
the
false
idea is kind
separation.
of that work is part of life and life is part of work, no matter what.
Yeah. Your day-to-day
Interesting.
life is your life, and your
Mm,
life is part of work. You, unless you're a child and you're like someone does things for you, you are an adult with responsibilities. So your life is
mm,
going to involve some sort of work, coursework, whether that is your 9 to 5 or some other self-employed job project. You might have a business. Others say, I've got some students that have businesses. So your life is your life. Just be happy with it. And if you're not
mm.
happy, use this stress stress to expand and explore and get better at what it is that you're doing. But manage your stress, because this is sometimes something that impedes you from reaching your highest possible potential. Well, let's talk about some tools then, or resources that you might recommend for time management, Brett.
Um, I think things like digital calendars, task management apps, I live on reminders apps, honestly. I can't remember to have a drink without setting a reminder, and it's terrible really, but using those apps where you can keep yourself accountable and you can set goals for times and they can send you
Mm.
reminders and they can push them to your phone. Like I said, I probably overly rely on reminders now, but it's the way that I remember to do things, the way that I remember to track my time. Some people choose to block it out in calendars, some people choose to write it down. So just using any tools or resources where you can keep yourself accountable, and give yourself something to look at visually,
Mm.
because I think if you all store it all in your head, it's going to get away from you. Whereas if you look at something with a block of time and say, I should be doing this now, then it's way more possible to keep yourself accountable.
Yeah, that's very good. And actually, you're leaving some more space in your brain for other things, for more information, more interesting information. I
That's
use
true.
apps as well, and I use reminders. I always
Yeah.
look to my phone to remind me, even with students there, because they say, if I say I'm going to send you something, just in case, let me just do it
Yes.
now. So I tell Siri to remind me. It's just so
Yeah.
normal.
Siri's
Um,
like the best mate.
yeah. How can our students seek help?
Um, so I think using your lecturers if you need, using our counselling services, um, perhaps looking at trying to get a mentor and
Mm.
somebody that's maybe been through something similar. So you might meet someone in the Law Society who is in the third year. If you're in the second year and first year, great to speak to people that have been through it and have different perspectives. Obviously, DMU has a dedicated support team and a confidential advice service. But if you don't want something, you know, like that, then I always say to my students, email me, come see me in office hours, stay behind in class, whatever you want to do. It's just letting people know that we're here to listen and we're here to help if you need.
Well, since we're on this point, what about also telling students how the law school can support them with managing time and stress?
Yeah, I think we are very aware that this is an important area and that time management and stress are something that students are going through. And, particularly having gone through the university experience when none of this existed, no podcasts, no um, signposting to services or anything like that, no initiatives like Healthy DMU, no resource management. I think looking we will always offer as much support as we can. We're always going to put on opportunities. We're going to be looking at putting on workshops to help as well. We're always going to be approachable. And I would say that the university as a whole, in terms of the sector, has got so much better at this. It used to be a case of, you're at university, you're on your own, good luck with it. And so just to tell everyone that we're here to support if you need, and feedback to us. Can you offer this? Can you do this? Can we have a
Mm,
workshop on this? Let us know what you want and let us know how we can best help.
that's a very good point. You guys, you can tell us. I like that. Very good. Brett, how do you feel, or how do you feel generally about self-care?
Um, Very important self-care. It's essential in terms of maintaining your mental health, maintaining your physical health, and that will directly impact your academic performance. And so find those ways to sort of regularly self-care to reduce stress, to improve your concentration, and obviously it enhances your overall well-being. Self-care is massively important, and finding that time to put yourself in that relaxed mindset and just remember that I know this sounds crazy, but don't take life too seriously. Like it's a fun experience. We have loads of interesting things to do.
Mm.
It's a great ride and just enjoy yourselves and don't take it too seriously. Obviously take your assignments seriously, but enjoy yourself. Like every day is a blessing and you should enjoy it.
Mm. That's why we call it university life, right?
Yeah.
Um, Can you share any personal experiences about managing time and stress?
Um, I think, I mean, I've always been
Maybe
told,
during your studies, or
yeah,
if you wish.
well, I was always told in appraisals at work and stuff that I was uber chilled out and very relaxed, horizontal actually. But I think that's an active mindset that I bring. Like I actively try. I know it sounds crazy to not be stressed out by something, to think my view is really simple. Can I do something about it? No, then leave it behind. Yes,
Mm.
then what are my steps to do it? So some people stress on things they can't change. Like there is no point. Once it's done, don't stress about it. Like that is my thought process. Can I do something about it? No, not my problem. I'm leaving it. Don't spend any mental bandwidth on it. Can I do something about it? Yes, how do I do it then? How do I break that down? What steps do I take to get there? So I don't know if that's a very useful flow chart, but it keeps me relaxed and it keeps me with perspective on life as well.
I think that is a very useful one, actually. Especially, obviously, we're talking about assessments, generally speaking, on this podcast. So very often, students will come out of an exam or an assessment submitted, and they start talking about it. Don't talk about it. You don't need to bring it. You're like, this is when X is going to start talking about God knows what case that you think I've not put that case in. And long story short, in my own experience about stress and this sort of situation, when you come out of the exam, a friend of mine said, "Well, I've put this case and that case," and it was a land law exam. You
Yeah.
guys, I'm teaching land law at the moment, but it was my worst subject during my uni years. And I came out of the exam thinking I failed. There is no chance in,
Yeah.
that I'm actually going to pass this exam. And it was a written one as well, one of those 3 hours
The
written
3 hour,
exam,
yeah,
closed book, like, yes. And actually, when it came to it, the results, I got C minus. No. Yeah, I think I got a C minus, and this other person got a D minus. I thought, I will never, ever, ever
yeah. No
listen
way.
to someone talking about it. I'm just going to say, I will stop you right there. I don't want to know about it with a big smile on my face
Do
because
you want to know
if,
though? Do you want to know something? I'm one
yeah,
of the people that comes out of exams and talks about it. I
yeah, you and me, never after an
we
exam. Yeah,
wouldn't, yeah.
never.
But
Yeah,
again, maybe it's therapy to talk about it for some people. But my
yes,
I would talk
exactly.
about it, but in the mindset that I know it couldn't be changed. So if you would
Yes.
say I put this and I put something different, I wouldn't stress about it. I would go, well, I can't do anything about it now. But I wanted for my peace of mind to know what people had put.
Well, you see, because you already have that barometer inside you, you've already decided I'm going to be horizontal, okay? Whereas Elena, when she comes out of an exam, I'm so vertical. So I said, nope, I don't want to hear it. La 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 la. And
Yeah,
yeah, just go about my business and worry about my next exam. Because actually, sometimes
nice.
in that period when I was taking the exams, you had 2, 3 days between them max if you were
Yeah,
lucky, and then you
yeah.
had to just focus on the next one. So there was no time for worries. And yes, if you're like Brett, thumbs up, that's okay. You
We
can
we
talk about it. But if you're like
We did
me,
though, didn't we? We used to have, 10 3 hour exams every 2 or 3, 2, 3 days. And it was about
yes,
compartmentalizing and saying, right, we're done with
yes,
that. Maybe
you're
take some
done
time
with
for yourself.
that's it. Yeah,
But
move
now,
on.
fortunately, with block teaching, we don't have bunched up assessments and things are more
True.
manageable. So that's good.
Yeah, and you only need to focus on one thing, right? So
Yeah.
there's none of this having to share your brain with other modules.
Yeah.
Once you've done it, then it's done, and then you can move on to a spanking new module. So yeah, that's very good.
100%.
Well,
100%.
Brett, thank you so much
You're very
for all
welcome.
of this. Was so helpful, and I think students are going to take a lot from this because it is normal to stress, but
Yeah.
we do encounter it, and sometimes we don't know how to manage all of this. It's too much, sometimes. And just take small steps, have a cup of coffee, tea, or whatever the
Mm,
beverage of your choice, and think about the reality, ask like Brett, You know,
Yes.
can I do anything about it right now? If I
Yeah.
can't, then leave it for when you actually need to worry about it. And this is something that some of my tutors used to say as well. You have to be able to put things on the shelf.
Yeah.
Don't just carry it, in the backpack, in your mind's backpack, because it gets
Mm.
really heavy after a while. Obviously, you're gonna start looking, walking like that with too much of a backpack in your mind. So yeah, just um, take a more practical approach and tell your mind, because we do have, I mean, how I wanted to share that the idea of the monkey paradox, is it, no,
Yeah.
the chip
Chimp
uh,
paradox.
chimp paradox.
Yeah,
A
Steve
brilliant
Peters.
book to get, yes, a brilliant book to get your heads around, because it's normal for our brains to get us into the stress mode. It's just so normal. So just I hope that this will help you to make things more manageable and make a success out of your 3 years.
Yeah, and
Well,
thank you
thank
so
you
much for
very
having me
much.
as well.
Thank you for coming, Brett. And
Thank you.
I'm sure that our students have enjoyed this, and hopefully we'll have you around for another one soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
See you all
right.
soon.
See you all soon. Take care, guys. See you at our next podcast. Bye bye.